I'm kind of sick of cancel culture, as one may have gathered by my consistent opposition to it. But one thing I really do like is when people get what they effing deserve. So here's the latest example of cancel culture gone wild. There's a chap called Nathan J. Robinson. That's the wrong tweet, I think, actually. But if you can scroll up there, John. Sorry, if you can go back to the top. Yeah, so he says he's the editor of Current Affairs magazine, which I guess is something he either owns or controls, and he was, as he puts in his bio, a former political columnist for The Guardian, and he has tweeted out, "One of the most serious threats to free speech is the silencing of criticism of the government of Israel. I have now found out this the hard way, having just been fired as a Guardian columnist for sending a tweet about the US military aid to Israel." Oh, have you really? You tweeted something, someone took exception to it, and you got fired. Welcome to the club. This is what happens to everyone.
Do we have any idea what the tweet was? Just
yes, we do. Yes, we do. In the article that he links, he says, personally, he explains what led up to the tweet. Right? And I just want to be clear, he's done nothing wrong here. Right, I even agree with his tweet. You know, it wasn't an anti-Semitic tweet or anything like that. It was nothing of the sort. It was just, we are now in a position where you have to walk on eggshells on every single topic. But he says in the article, "Personally, I was appalled and depressed to see the new funding for Israeli missiles being passed at the same time as a pitifully small COVID relief." This was about the 1.9 trillion relief bill that had everything tacked onto it, and he had tweeted in frustration about this.
$10 million for Pakistani gender programs, for example.
and $500 million for Israel, or something like that, for missiles and things like this. It's like, yeah, I can see why he's annoyed at this. I'm annoyed at this, right? As he says, Israel is a nuclear armed power. It almost has complete dominance over the Palestinians. We've already given it so much military aid that it does not need. Why, during the pandemic, is Congress funneling money to new systems? And he says, "I am, to my constant shame, moderately active on Twitter. So I relieved my anger with a joke tweet. Sarcastically, I wrote the two linked tweets." Now, I don't even agree that his tweets were sarcastic. I don't think... I mean, they are sarcastic. But... I think he should have called them satirical, because satire has a political, or a form of commentary embedded within it, right? And that's what he had done. And it's perfectly fair commentary. The first one was, "Did you know that the US Congress is not actually allowed to authorize any new spending unless a portion of it is directed towards buying weapons for Israel? It's the law." Obvious joke, but making a good satirical point. There's no reason in the middle of the pandemic, when you're creating a COVID relief bill, to include money for Israeli weapons. That doesn't make sense.
It's a separate bill.
It's a separate bill. And it's obvious that this is special interest tacking all of their stuff on, which everyone knew. Everyone can see this. And it was not just, the Israeli lobby. It was for every other lobby under the sun. They all did it. And that's what made it, again, one of those mask off moments. It's like, look, we can see what you're doing here. And the second one was, or if not actually written in the law, then so ingrained in political custom as to functionally be indistinguishable from law, which is, again, another correct point. It is literally just something they do by default. And he, of course, goes, "This is a joke, this is a joke, this is a joke." And so in response to this, he continues with this thread, says, "I knew that this sort of censorship happened. I have long argued that the most pernicious cancel culture is one directed towards pro-Palestinian speech, but I was shocked at how blatant it was. They were very clear that I was being fired for criticism of US policy towards Israel. Losing a job right now is very difficult. Very clear how effective this is in keeping people silent. At-will employment means writers can be put under high pressure to not say anything politically that their boss disagrees with. The editor-in-chief told me in writing that I wasn't allowed to tell anyone that he was policing my tweets because officially I was free to speak, and he had tried confidentially to patrol my public speech. And I'm not going to keep something like that quiet." Which I'm totally on his side with that, right? I'm totally in sympathy, apart from the fact that he's like, "Oh, I knew this sort of thing happened, and I've long argued against it."
Has he?
Nathan, your Twitter history is public. If we search Nathan Robinson and cancel culture, do we get you going, "Cancel culture's bad, cancel culture's bad, cancel culture's bad"? No, we don't. For example, in the first one, where this was in... not that one, sorry, the next one. So back in February the 3rd, so not even long ago. Not even long ago. it would be good if critics of cancel culture defy cancel, because it seems to be a catch-all term that frequently means my opinion was criticized by people on the internet. Am I cancelled if I say a thing and large numbers of people get mad and think it's racist? Do I have to lose my job to be cancelled? Do I have to lose money or opportunities? How many people have to criticize a thing before it becomes a cancelling mob? You tell us, Nathan. You tell us. You're the one who's been cancelled. You're the one who's lost their job. Do you consider yourself cancelled? I mean, you're saying that you've been a victim of cancel culture. I mean, if that's the case, I'm happy to agree. If you lose something you've built that you've earned unjustly because you had an opinion on the internet, can we call that cancel culture?
I mean, he's actually raising a good point, though, which is
sure,
you don't want to overuse the term. So where is it true? And I think he's found it. It's losing opportunities either through your job or money or contracts or something like this.
A platform you've built up.
Yeah, it's
something
not,
like that.
It's not just being criticized. It's having something taken away from you unjustly just through the fact that someone doesn't like what you said.
Yeah, but in the defense of the people who are criticizing him, like myself, no one ever said that cancel culture was my opinion was being criticized on the internet. No one's ever said that. That is a straw man that the left has made up in order to obfuscate from the fact that they have been the one cancelling people. And I mean, it gets worse for him. In fact, this is the partisan nature of it. We can go to the next one. So can we scroll up a bit, because this is the part 2 of a two-parter. So he had replied to Tommy Lauren last year in June, where she had said, "Why has cancel culture gotten this bad? Because we allowed it to get here. We cowered, apologised and ducked down for things we never should have, and now leftist social media mob has free reign as we hand them power. Enough. Cancel culture." And I think
totally true statement.
Totally true statement that Nathan essentially is forced to agree with at this point, because it was the Guardian editor that cancelled him, and the Twitter left-wing mob that cancelled him. It wasn't the right that cancelled him. He can't point the finger anywhere else. But he's like, "You're a millionaire with a show on Fox News, a book from HarperCollins, 1.6 million Twitter followers, and appearances on The View, Daily Show, etc. Who is being cancelled? When have you been censored or persecuted? All of you people are rich, noisy, and decidedly uncancelled. There is no cancel culture. The fastest way to get a book deal in this country is to whine about cancel culture. Every single one of these people ends up on their feet. They're fine. They have giant platforms. They're heard loud and clear. Right-wing opinions are everywhere."
Missing the point. Like, the point just over his head.
No, the point being, when you thought it was right-wingers being cancelled, there is no cancel culture. Quote from you. You know, it's good, it's right to persecute right-wingers. But now, when the noose of censorship has drawn tighter, and all of the other people, like, again, it didn't end with Nazis, it didn't end with Alex Jones, it didn't end with Donald Trump, it doesn't end with conservatives, now it arrives at the Guardian's editorial board.
But that is true. I just wanted to mention the other part here, which is his intro, where he was saying that if someone's got a platform at all, they are not cancelled.
Yeah.
And this is a routine criticism of people who complain about it. But that's obvious nonsense. Let's take the example of the, the congressman who opposed the election results. Yeah, he was publishing a book about censorship, and because he spoke about the election results, that book publisher decided not to publish his book.
Yeah.
And then he went on Fox News and was like, they're just cancelling me. What the hell can I do?
Yeah.
You know, no one's going to publish my book. And then people were complaining, well, you're on Fox News. You're not cancelled.
But you're trying to cancel Fox News. CNN has been on an active campaign for the last month trying to get Fox News deplatformed.
But also just his book, like, in a microcosm there. Like, but his book isn't published now, you idiots.
But that's the thing. None of these things are safe. Like, your Twitter account isn't safe. Your book deal isn't safe. Fox News isn't safe. You know, whatever media platforms, everything can be cancelled. And they're trying to get everything cancelled. So to sit there and go, well, you've still got a platform left. It's like, yeah, okay, that's right. I haven't yet been, executed, but you've blown parts of me off.
If you're in a village hall with 10 people from the village, you're not cancelled yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's obviously a way of pretending that the problem isn't existing while you're busy being part of the problem, Nathan. There is no cancel culture. Sorry, Nathan. Don't know what you're talking about being cancelled. There is no cancel culture.
Love Alice there. Yeah. This pretty much guarantees that you will be cancelled.
Yeah, good point, Alice. Fate has a sense of irony. But yeah, so, and amusingly, in his own words from the current affairs article that he linked in the first one, I love the way he's framed this, because this is exactly what everyone who has been cancelled can say. I hope, however, that you can see exactly how the suppression of critics of Israel works. You say the wrong thing, you lose your position. No second chances. You'll be tarred as an anti-Semite and your job will disappear overnight. Oh, really? Oh, really? It's only the critics of Israel who get that. No other kind of critics get tarred as a racist and lose everything that they have. That only happens to the Israel critics. One key reason this is one key reason why Israel continues to get away with horrific crimes. To speak honestly and frankly about the facts risk bringing swift censorship. Human rights violations continue with impunity, and when Israeli snipers target Palestinian children, The Guardian is complicit. Well, I mean, I concur that cancel culture is bad and censorship is wrong, and it allows the powerful to continue doing what they're doing. Anyway, moving on. The next person to be cancelled is the Mypillow guy. I don't really know what he's done wrong apart from support Donald Trump and support crazy conspiracy theories.
So I saw there was an image of him trying to go into the White House to meet with Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And apparently his paper was a little bit folded.
Yeah.
And it mentioned the Insurrection Act.
Right.
And that was enough. They were like, no, he's going to advocate for, disbanding the government or whatever to try and make sure the election is
They don't know that.
But that's the accusation, was my understanding.
Yeah.
The reason why his selling of pillows had to be discontinued throughout all time.
Yeah. I mean, he's been dropped, as he says, on Gab by 18 different stores, both IRL and online ones. Why the hell is this happening? Should market decisions be made like this? I don't think they should. I think that his brand...
No one read the full page. We just saw little bits of it.
Yeah, we don't
And people
know.
made assumptions.
Yeah. And now destroy his business. And it's like, do you want a bunch of companies to get together and destroy a person's business? I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's a terrible idea. I think
That's why ethical companies are evil.
Yes, ethical companies are evil and do evil things. Like, what's this guy done wrong? I'm not even sure. Like, he supports Donald Trump. Okay. He believes in crazy conspiracy theories. Okay.
But it's also every executive of every one of those companies that's made this decision deserves to be fired, because not only have they now robbed their shareholders, they've also robbed their customers of the ability to buy this pillow.
Yeah, and I mean, I've never heard of this Mypillow company before, but
I'm sure the pillow's fine, mate.
yeah, I'm sure. I mean, it seems to have been doing well.
I'm sure it's great. You know what? Go and buy it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
This
I'll
podcast
get.
sponsored by MyPillow.
Yeah. Well, he can't sponsor us anymore, can he? Bloody hell. But yeah, so it's like, okay, so just owners of companies can get completely blacklisted, which I just think is awful. And then it goes even further with the Mandalorian star Gina Carano, who recently was fired because she had tweeted something. She's not just been fired from The Mandalorian, but the Star Wars galaxy entirely. So no Star Wars things. Because she shared a post on social media implying that being a Republican today is like being Jewish during the Holocaust. As in, there is an ethical agenda being enacted against you, and you are a target of a coordinated attempt of persecution. That's true.
Like, obviously, it's different from the Holocaust in many respects.
Sure.
But if she had used the Cultural Revolution, for example, would that have been suddenly worth cancelling?
Exactly. It wouldn't have been an accurate.
Because it also wouldn't have been accurate entirely. But so what? Like, it's about the feeling of the thing.
But the point is, the mainstream shouldn't be identifying any kind of demographic in society and saying, right, we're going to persecute those. That shouldn't happen. It should be not a never event. There's never a good group of people to try and hurt and try and destroy. That's just not good. That's wrong in every capacity. But yeah, apparently Lucasfilm came out and said, yep, she's not currently employed. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. That's not what she did. That's not a denigrating statement.
In fact, she was asking for tolerance.
Yeah. She's saying,
sure, she said it in a bit of a roundabout way, but
what happened to the Jews is bad, which is why what's happening to the Republicans now is also bad, because fundamentally it does occur along the same dynamics. The powerful have identified a minority group that they want to hurt. I mean, she's not wrong, and she's not disparaging anyone. But the hashtag Fire Gina Carano was trending on Wednesday, following an Instagram post from her about this. The post has since been deleted. Screenshots were widely shared. I couldn't actually find it, to be honest, and they didn't link it in here. But this is not the first time she's been in trouble, because she is a Republican. She's a conservative. And she didn't like mask wearing and suggested that voter fraud may have occurred. But the way they falsely suggested voter fraud may have occurred. everyone accepts that some degree of voter fraud occurs in elections.
Well, even YouTube does.
Yeah.
They're just saying, well, their rules state
it's not
that
widespread.
Coordinated doesn't exist.
Yeah, but everyone agrees that some, but I mean, falsely. But an insider, of course, from Lucasfilm has, on anonymity, speaking to The Hollywood Reporter, said, well, they've been looking to get rid of her for months, and today was the final straw. Maybe. What's interesting, though, is her co-star, the Mandalorian himself, Pedro Pascal, isn't cancelled. This is what he posted in 2018, comparing the concentration camps. Well, this is when AOC, of course, said these are concentration camps, comparing the migrant holding centres to concentration camps. He's not fired for this. This is acceptable virtue signaling because, as you can see in his
it's anti-Trump.
But as you can see in his status, Pedro Pascal, he/him, it's left wing virtue signaling, and therefore he's not in trouble yet. Wait until you've got something to say about Israel, Pedro, and you'll find that maybe you are in fact cancelled, just like Nathan was. Anyway, moving on to I just want to be clear, this is exactly the sort of thing that happened during the French Revolution. It's just that this is just people not being killed, but having their social media virtually killed, virtually guillotined. In the French Revolution, obviously, people were just actually guillotined. But yeah, so anyway, Trump is permanently banned from Twitter, according to Twitter's chief financial officer, Ned Segal, who said during an interview on CNBC that Trump will never be restored to his Twitter account.
Even if he's re-elected as the president of the United States.
Even if he's re-elected as president. I mean, they deplatformed him when he was the president in a mass deplatforming over the course of a few days. So, I mean, nothing matters now. There are no sort of like, yeah, but this person has something that is in the public interest or something like that, or the fact that, Donald Trump's Twitter feed was declared a public forum by the courts. That doesn't matter somehow. He wasn't allowed to block people, but Twitter are allowed to block him. Don't know how that works. Looking forward to seeing that go through the courts at some point. But anyway, Ned Segal said, the way our policies work, when you're removed from the platform, you're removed from the platform. So literally, that's it. There's no second chance. You just get to go. And whether you're a commentator or a CFO, you're a former or current public official, remember, our policies are designed to make sure that people are not inciting violence. And if everyone does that, we have to remove them from the service. And our policies don't allow people to come back. So, okay, for a start, A, he didn't. So disagree with you. And your interpretation of this was obviously...
Well, he's about to be found non-guilty.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, then what?
Yeah, then what? Well, we don't allow people to come back. That's what. It's utterly unforgiving. There is no going back on this. So once you lose your Twitter account, that is forever, no matter how important you are in political life. Very interesting.
I also hate, this is the stupidest way Facebook and Twitter and whatnot run their bannings. Yeah. Like, if you want to ban someone for inciting hatred, well, what's the criminal penalty? Like, let's say it's the maximum 6 months in jail. Okay, so just ban the account for 6 months.
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
Like, how is that not proportionate? How is banning someone for all time proportionate?
Yeah, we do not punish people. Jack did indeed, as John's just pointed out, Jack did say that he thinks there should be a pathway to redemption because essentially me and Joe Rogan.
A way has been set up, as we have seen with YouTube and Facebook, at least, which is that you know someone, and then you get your redemption.
Yes, exactly. Yes, if you've got people on the inside. But that Jack did confirm that, yeah, there should be some sort of
it should,
forgiveness. But
it should be the thing where it's just 6 months. There you go.
Yeah, but that's the thing. In the law would never work this way. Where the first time you break the law, you get shot. That would be unreal. They'd be like, well, that was unreasonable, wasn't it? It's like, well, you better follow that law. It's like, yeah, but the law keeps changing. You keep modifying your terms of service, and it's being interpreted in a really uncharitable way. But basically, there needs to be probably some legal limit to the amount that social media can do. And Jack Dorsey himself said that he thinks social media is a human right. How do you justify this then? How do you justify this? There probably should be some sort of legal requirement that it can only be for a certain period of time. Like maybe you can say you can only ban an account for a maximum of a year or something like that. I don't know.
Just relate it to the law. Like someone's convicted for murder for 20 years. Okay, 20-year ban. Yeah. Because you're a murderer.
But then they're hardly going to be able to ban anyone because almost nothing that happens on Twitter is actually criminal.
Yes, that's how it should be.
Yeah, I agree.
If you break the law, you should have those repercussions. In the same way the Polish are saying, totally if you break the law on Twitter by saying something that is criminal, if you said it in the public forum, same thing.
Weird. Just side note is that rapists and murderers don't get their Twitter accounts banned.
No, they don't.
Weird. Anyway, moving on.
Nor the leader of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah,
he's still on there.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Biden did give a eulogy at his funeral, so... Anyway, moving on. Google, as reported by Josh on Lotus.com, is going to be actively removing websites from their search engine, which is just the latest in the sort of... Okay, like... The problem, these other manifestations of cancel culture are not as bad as they could be because they're in your face, right? You're watching The Mandalorian and now, Gina Carano's character's gone. Okay, why? At least I know why. I can look into it. Why is I know that I'm missing something. The guy who wrote for The Guardian, his column's no longer there. At least I can identify that there is a difference in reality because of cancel culture, but this is really pernicious. So Google recently released their manual actions report, which seeks to inform website owners about Google's approach to moderating content in the search results. A manual action is when the human reviewer at Google, as opposed to an algorithm, has determined that the site is not compliant with Google's quality guidelines. And according to Google, most manual actions address attempts by websites to manipulate their position in the search results, which is probably true. And so they've got a list of things which are very interesting. What Josh believes are the most concerning implications in the section on news and discover policy violation, and it seems somewhat out of place alongside the aforementioned deceptive or manipulative practices. So the Google gives us a list, right? And so it's like adult-themed content. Okay, fair enough. Dangerous content. Okay, fair enough. You can go down a little bit more, John.
Define dangerous.
Well, they do, actually. Google has detected content on your site appears to violate a dangerous content policy because it contains content that could directly facilitate serious and immediate harm to people or animals.
Harm. Define harm.
I don't know, but if it's like bomb-making instructions or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're not going to define it the way the law would define it, which is reasonable. It would be defined within a leftist paradigm.
Yes, that's true. And that's why, ultimately, I think eventually the decision-making ability to decide what is filterable will be taken out of the hands of social media companies at some point. So they won't get to set their own sort of terms and conditions in that way. It'll be, the government presumably tells them, regulates them, and tells them what can be considered removable and whatnot. But the next one is harassing content. So content on the site that appears to violate our harassment content policy because it contains harassment, bullying, or threatening content, including but not limited to which might single someone out for malicious abuse, threaten someone with serious harm, sexualize someone in an unwanted way. Daily Mail is in trouble here. Expose private information of someone else that could be used to carry out threats, disparage or belittle victims of violence or tragedy, deny an atrocity, or harass in other ways. That's
such a bungle.
Insanely broad.
But just look at those, two of those things there, definitely doing it. Harassing content, denying an atrocity. How does denying something harass someone?
I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't know.
But that just demonstrates how poorly written all of this stuff is.
Well, and how wide a net they're seeking to cast, because they're essentially saying we want the justification
to ban anyone for anything.
Anything that we consider against our interests. The next one is, of course, hateful content. Google has detected on your site that appears to violate content on your site that appears to violate a hateful content policy with content that incites hatred, as if this is some kind of objective standard that we all agree to. We do not allow content that promotes or condones violence or has the primary purpose of inciting hatred against an individual or group, including but not limited to, on the basis of their race, ethnic origin, religion, disability, age, nationality, veteran status, sexual orientation, gender identity, or any other characteristic that is associated with systemic discrimination or marginalization. So now, are we saying that all of the sort of like kill all men websites, the radfem websites, are they going to all get removed from Google?
Of course not.
They should. I mean, maybe they will. Maybe they'll be like, well, these are TERF websites. These discriminate against gender identity. And so to hell with them. I mean, I don't know. Manipulated media?
That's actually not in line with UK law, which goes further, which is that belief or non-belief is also added, and not just religious. It just uses the term belief. So you could sue on the basis of someone discriminating against you on the basis that you're a vegan. So,
which then implies that Nazis are being horribly and unfairly oppressed.
That is their definition here. So they say they're hinting to it, but this is UK law.
Yeah.
Anyone who experiences systemic discrimination, well, if as a society, as we do, most people do not want to hire neo-Nazis.
Yeah.
We decide that that viewpoint is not something we want associated with the company.
Yes.
Well, then neo-Nazis are being systematically discriminated against, in which case they can now sue us for systematically discriminating against them.
Yeah. And Google has to remove those anti-Nazi websites.
But also they have to keep up the neo-Nazi websites.
They do.
Because otherwise they would be engaging in hateful conduct.
They would. It's very interesting, the corner they're painting themselves into here. Yeah. But the next one's manipulated media, which is a curious thing. We do not allow audio, video, or image content that has been manipulated to deceive, defraud, or mislead by means of creating a representation of actions or events that verifiably did not take place and would cause a reasonable person to have a fundamentally different understanding or impression thereof, such that it might cause significant harm to groups or individuals or significantly undermine participation and trust in electoral and civic processes. Well, I mean, I don't think we should worry too much about participation or trust in civic processes because
it's CNN gone.
Well, I mean, yeah, and the Democrats' impeachment trial gone, which we'll cover in a minute. But who's going to be left to participate in civic processes? Because I mean, memes could fall into this category. If you photoshopped a meme, sorry, that was manipulated media. And of course, this bleeds into the next one: misleading content. Google has detected content on your site that appears to violate our misleading content policy, misleads users into engaging with it by promising a topic or story that is not reflected in the content. And you've got transparency in vulgar language and profanity, which is weirdly puritanical. But gratuitous obscenities or profanities are things they also want to not be, frankly, found on websites on Google. And it's well, glad we don't swear on this podcast, but...
But I hate it because some of these you can see as reasonable. Some of these are the law. Terrorist content mentioned there. Yeah. That's the law. And that's you know where I want it to end, really, the law.
Yeah.
Because you're just meant to be a platform. But they're casting this net as far as possible. And, of course, that means they can, as the chat's pointing out, censor any meme they don't like, any news story they don't like, because they don't like the way you're representing it. It's misleading people this way. Well, that's... one thing, but they won't apply it equally. They won't be taking down CNN's lies about what happens in cases that Black Lives Matter like to promote. They won't be taking down Black Lives Matter for misrepresenting them at the base.
That's correct.
So...
but the worst part about this, though, is that this is censorship that happens before you know anything has been censored. And it's this kind of deep editorialization that is the real problem.